My grandma Miriam, who left Iraq because of Jew hatred and had to survive a pogrom called the Farhoud. She never served in a war. She never served in an army. She's never killed anyone.
But she's a Nazi, a white supremacist Nazi.
Not only her, but me. I've been crying every day, man. And I get just the worst footage that not a lot of people get to see because it's being sent directly to me. Body bags, people still moving inside of piles of bodies. Just horrible things, very dark.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Western Spirit from Israel. Today, we're with my special friend, Tal Oran. He's the YouTuber, Traveling Clatt. If you don't know Tal, go know Tal, so to speak. You should know him by now. So, Tal, pleasure having you here.
I like the title special friend. It's like an innuendo that I might not be 100% there.
We'll talk about that.
Which I'm really not, so.
So, Tal,
yes.
Let's start off with one of the things that you talk about a lot. Just lately, I've been watching a lot of your stuff getting ready.
Yeah.
To speak with you is Mizrahi and Ashkenazim Jews, and you as a Mizrahi. By the way, my wife is Iraqi and Persian like you are,
cool. So
we have that in common. Why do you think it's important? Because you seem to like a lot of the things that are interesting to me is I was in New York not too long ago, went through one of these protests, walked by, colonizer, white supremacist, the white people from Israel, a European colony, Israel is, and then you come off and say, it's totally the opposite. It's the Arabs, the Jews from the Arab countries that are here, people like you. So maybe talk a little bit about that, and then I'll push back a little bit. So
on October 7th, when I was we're in Asia, when the conflict started, it was an immediate I immediately started getting called a Nazi, a genocider, a white colonizer for posting the most rudimentary support for my country. The most I stand with Israel type of stuff. And what I kept thinking about was my grandma. My grandma Miriam, who left Iraq because of Jew hatred and had to survive a pogrom called the Farhud at the age of 1.
Maybe could you tell us what the Farhud was?
Yeah, June 1st and 2nd, 1941. Iraqi Arab supremacists, Islamists, they broke into the homes of over 100 or actually it was thousands, it was more than that. They killed 180 Jewish people in a single night. It was kind of known as the Iraqi Kristallnacht. And then almost 2,000 others' homes were looted, burned, robbed. It was a horrible massacre. And my grandparents both lived through that. My grandfather Ezra and my grandmother Miriam, who were both born and raised in Baghdad. And when that happened, you fast forward 70 plus years later to Israel. My grandma has dementia. She's bedridden. She's sick. She's a refugee of Islamism. She never served in a war. She never served in an army. She's never killed anyone.
But she's a Nazi, a white supremacist Nazi.
Not only her, but me. I never served in the army either. Not because of ideological reasons. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
I would have loved to. It didn't happen. I'm a journalist, quote unquote. I'm offered no rights by the pro-Palestine side. I've been living here for 2 years, covering the war, at threat of bombs, a fatwa now that I have on my head, just for covering what's going on and showing solidarity. I'm offered zero human rights. So to me, the hypocrisy was immediate. I was like, something's not adding up here. If I'm a white colonizer, are my Ethiopian Jewish friends, are they white colonizers also?
White adjacent, no, that's the new...
White passing.
Yeah, exactly.
White adjacent is actually what I am considered. I'm considered white. I'm Khazarian adjacent. Yeah. But so that made me jump into the fight. I packed up my life, which was what I was doing previously, which maybe we'll talk about later. And I came here one way just to try to dispel the myths. I came with a Hasbara perspective that has fundamentally changed since then, which I no longer want to be associated with doing Hasbara or being a Hasbaraist. But that's what I originally came here, was to explain to people what the hell they're looking at. They're not looking at a bunch of white colonizers. Yes. They're looking at a bunch of hooga-booga, Mizrahi Jews who are trying to make it work, which is the majority of this country, as you know.
Wait, so before we go to majority, what does it mean to, maybe a lot of our viewers, especially in America, I think, but in Europe even more so, because they don't even meet any Jews at this point. They meet people that hate Jews. They don't meet the Jews themselves. And obviously in other countries that have zero Jews, not because they're against Jews, just because there is no Jews. So maybe explain, who are the Mizrahi Jews? And how did they get here? So because these are the things that you have been studying, and they're your personal history also. True. So it makes a lot of compelling stuff.
So a Mizrahi Jew is a colloquial term, right?
Right.
Like, it's not really a real thing. The same way that Ashkenazi Jews aren't really a real thing. They're like, that's us trying to like group people into different circles. Even like, for example, in the Ethiopian Jewish community, we like to call everybody B'tai Israel. And it's true because that's what they were known as in Ethiopia, the House of Israel. But even there's a differentiation between the Amharic Ethiopian Jews and the Tigrayan Ethiopian Jews.
And now there's the Falashmura. That's
correct.
Also
the
different.
Falashmura is a totally different thing.
But they're also from
They're
Ethiopia.
also there.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, it's us trying to group things in. In reality, an Iraqi Jew, or what we know as a Yehudi Bavli, Babylonian Jew, and a Moroccan Jew have almost nothing in common.
And a lot of them hate each other.
But we also do. Yes, a lot hate each other. I don't hate any Moroccan Jews. I just want to say I grew up around Moroccan Jews. My favorite. But you know, like, we don't have that much in common. And a Persian Jew and an Iraqi Jew have two different forms of supremacy they see each other in. And a Persian Jew will always feel like they're better and smarter than an Iraqi Jew. So the term itself is a bit of a misnomer, but to give that nuance, basically all the Jews from Morocco until Iran-ish, sometimes India is looped in there as well, are considered Mizrahi Jews, or the Jews of the East. East of what, I don't really know, because Morocco is technically west of Israel, so it doesn't really totally make sense. And that's kind of the colloquial
Isn't
term.
that what Americans would say a Sephardic Jew?
Sephardic Jews are Jews who specifically came from the Iberian Peninsula, which is, I do have that in my family as well. One of my grandmothers is from Istanbul, but she's not a Turkish Jew because there was a Turkish Jewish community. She's not that. She was part of the Ladino Jews who were kicked out of the Iberian Peninsula during the Spanish Inquisition, and they ended up in Turkey, and they preserved that Ladino culture. So those are Jews who came from Portugal, they came from Spain, some of them came from Italy, but those are also known as Romani Jews.
Okay, you're making us all mixed up.
It's a whole salat,
But
you know?
anyway, what we're saying is that these are Jews that are mostly from Islamic countries, pretty much.
For the most part, yes.
At least in the modern times. Because, for example, Iran wasn't Islamic all the years.
Correct.
So, which you have a very interesting video about that. That was funny. They told the guy, like, you guys are supremacy and everything, but then the Islamic people came in and you just, like, all became Muslims.
Well, the nuance, by the way, to what you're saying, which I think is the most fascinating, which I want everybody who's watching this to remember, when we say we're Jews who came from the Islamic countries or the Arab countries, most of those Jews were in those countries, and even in Europe, by the way, before they were Muslim, before they were Arab, and before Europe was Christian. That's how long Jews have been around, but also inhabiting these areas. Like, my family was in Iraq well before Islam was even an afterthought, and well before Arabic even developed as a language. That's how long my family was in Iraq for.
Okay, so you get here, this is your heritage, your community, you live this your whole life, actually. It's like a natural thing for you. For you, Jews, the community you lived around are Mizrahim.
Correct.
It's not like you happened to you were in with lots of Jews that were white colonialists, and then one day you found out you were the one, Mizrahi. No. This was your life, and suddenly October 7th happens, and I mean, it's not really suddenly, actually. In academia, they've basically called Jews and people from Israel white colonizers for decades at this point. No, even the Ethiopians, they would be surprised that they even exist, these people. Because for them, everyone here is white, and everyone here is European descent, and therefore everyone here is like a racist,
colonizer,
anti-people of person of color. I guess it's very weird. Also, like, you grew up in read half in America, half here. So in America, everything is looked at least in the last decade, as a binary between black and white.
Correct.
But it's very weird to put that on Israel, because the situation here is not black and white. It's brown and black and white.
It's mostly brown.
Right. And everything in between.
The situation here is mostly brown.
Exactly. And everything in between. And then you're like taking, America. It's like Ta-Nehisi Coates, very famous black writer and Israel hater, came to Israel for 10 days, and he wrote an entire book pretty much on his 10 days here. And he's basically, entire book looks at Israel through the lens of the African-American and story, basically. So he went to Jerusalem and he said, like, I went here and I felt like they were looking at me differently, and I felt that the Arabs were second-class citizens from 10 days, mind you. Like, this is the most complicated place in the world, and he wrote an entire book. It's like, that's not the lens that things are happening here. It's a different world. And so,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a different world. I will say I wouldn't be quick to write off. I'm not agreeing with that, but I wouldn't be quick to write off the presumptions or the feelings that brown and black people have from the West when they come here, because I have discovered, unfortunately, that there is a framework of things that exist here. I don't want to call it in racism or prejudice, but just like weird ethnic biases. And by the way, the Mizrahi community plays into that as well, which they can be extremely racist and discriminatory against other people. But we do, like, this is what Israel is, right? It's an experiment of bringing back a group of people who have now attained a bunch of different ethnic identities, and are all mushed into one. Like, for example, I was outside of Jaffa Gate in the Old City around a year and a half ago. It inspired like a totally different project, but I was watching people come through Jaffa Gate, and I was looking at the Arabs and I was looking at the Jews. I was looking at the Arabs coming in with jalabiyas, and I was looking at the Jews coming in with the little top hats and the suits. And all the Jews were coming with top hats and the Jews. They were Ashkenazi descent.
Right.
They're very white passing.
Even though now the Shasnikim walk around with that too.
Which I hate, by the way. I think it's a horrible thing. Yeah. But like, it's insane to me that any Jew who came from an Arab country or Muslim country is now wearing a Polish thing, which is crazy. But whatever. And then I'm watching these Arabs coming with the jalabiya. And I'm like, if I was here, as dumb as I could be, uneducated, a pro-Pali, I don't want to say the word because I want to keep it friendly, but like, whatever they be, as dumb as they come, of course, I would leave with the assumption that the Jews are colonizers and the Arabs are not, if I were just looking at it superficially. But this country is anything other than superficial, because even for him, I forgot the name of the
Ta-Nehisi.
Yeah, so I've heard his name before. If he were to come here and spend enough time amongst Palestinian society or Arab society, they'd find out that they still have a camp in Gaza reserved only for black people.
Yes.
Called Harat al-Abid, which means the
Slaves,
neighborhood. Yeah, al-Abid, which means the slave neighborhood. And still today, 2026, I check every time I go to Yerushalayim, there is still a Palestinian-owned candy shop that sells Ras al-Abid, which is a candy. It's our version of krembo. It's theirs. Krembo in Arabic is called Ras al-Abid. It's a little cookie with marshmallow inside.
And it's black on the outside.
Dark chocolate, and it looks like a little cylinder. And they call it the head of the slave, Ras al-Abid. It's the most insane thing in the world. So like, any African American or any African in general who stands with the Palestinian cause or with the pro-Arab Islamist cause, I'm always shocked by it, because I'm like, we Jews and blacks, Jews and Africans, we have had the same struggle. Yeah. We are the only two people on this planet who have been so systematically discriminated against for sometimes the same amount of time, and sometimes at the same time, like being taken as slaves together. In ancient Egypt, that's what happened. Who built those pyramids? Who built all that? It was Jews and Africans together. Sometimes Jewish Africans as well.
And the Arab slave trade and all these things. Contrary to what Candace Owens says, that the Jews were the slave traders, actually, it was mostly Islamic slave trade, and if not Islamic, then Arab slave trade.
Which is still very alive and healthy today, that trade.
Go to Qatar, that Tucker Carlson likes. Like 3/4 of people in this geographic area that's called Qatar are basically slaves. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but okay, when you go to the U.S. or even on your show that you talk with people from all over the world, which is like really cool and funny, and you say to people, "I'm a Jew, but I'm not white. Like, I'm European." Do you sometimes get reactions that people are like, "No, you are European and you are white, and I don't care what you say"?
Well, so it depends on who I'm speaking to. When I speak to the neo-Nazis, like the Nick Fuentes
they're happy
types,
that you're not white.
Well, they don't see you as white either.
Right.
So are you Ashkenazi?
Yes.
Like, fully?
Yes. But they don't care.
But they don't see you as white. Right. Like, doesn't matter if you have blue eyes and light hair. They see you as a sand ninja, which is what they call me. But I'm like Sand Ninja Pro Max, you know, that's like that's my title. I'm like the real Sand Ninja. Exactly. I'm the one who really killed Christ. You guys are just adjacent to killing Christ. So it depends the levels of racism we go to. When I speak to Arabs or to Arab nationalists, Arab Islamists, Arab supremacists, which I like to call them, they first and foremost remove me of my title as a Jew and first place onto me to be an Arab. And then I tell them the very hard reality they have to deal with. It's like, Habibi, if I'm Arab, that means you're saying that all the Mizrahi Jews are Arabs, right? The Jews who came from Morocco, the Jews who came from Iran, from Iraq, we're all Arabs, right? They say, of course. I'm like, incredible. So that means all the descendants of them are Arabs as well, yeah? Yes, of course. So that means that 70% of Israel is Arab, right? Of course. So if I want to go live in Gaza, what's the problem? And then you have to make them admit that the fact that I practice a different religion that I'm Jewish means I can't go live in Gaza. I can't go live in Ramallah. I can't go live in Nablus because I'm a Jew, not because I'm Arab.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you realize that this idea that they saw that we lived in peace, that Islam is peaceful always to the Jews, and we were always living under, all of a sudden it's like, wait, I'm an Arab, just like the Palestinians. I'm the same ethnicity.
Right.
But I can't live in a certain place because of my religion? Shu peace. Shu salam. Where is it? Where's the peace?
Right. And maybe that also interesting question. What does it mean for you to be Jewish in the sense, is it, it's not an ethnicity because we have lots of ethnicities. And when you tell these Arabs it's because of my religion, I don't look at Judaism as a religion per se.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you. Like, I'm religious, Jew Orthodox, but I have friends that aren't religious and are very Jewish.
Yeah.
And the way they look at it. So they wouldn't tell those Arabs it's because of my religion, because they don't practice their religion. It's because of their peoplehood or something. How would like...
So look, what I love about, one of the things I take so much pride in being a Mizrahi Jew or being a Jew of this ethnicity is that we don't have those labels.
Right.
Kiro, the idea of being Orthodox, Reform, conservative, it's not a Mizrahi thing. It's never been. Even when they label Ovadia Yosef, his descendants, his father, and they label Baba Sali as Orthodox Jews or Haredi Jews, I don't like that terminology because it's not something they really believed in. They didn't believe in this idea of being a Haredi. They were a Jew. They were a Jew. They were of the Shalsheret, the chain of people who came from the Israelites. They developed into this modern context in the diaspora, and then they came back home. This idea of labeling it as like, you're this kind of Jew and you're this kind of Jew. So to me, I do look at things in a spiritual sense, big time. I'm very, very spiritual. I put on tefillin every day. I try to practice all holidays. I fast on Yom Kippur. I don't keep Shabbat. I don't keep 100% kosher. You know, like I'm a Jew like every other Jew.
Which is the Mizrahi, which is maybe people who aren't Jewish or aren't Israeli don't understand. I think maybe we should put it on the table. The Ashkenazic Jews came to here with a lot of different sort of classes, let's say, categories.
Yes.
So everything is, you're either Orthodox, you're Zionist, you're not Zionist.
It depends what kind of shtreimel you're putting on, what kind of hat.
And even the Yiddish. So I grew up as ultra Orthodox in Brooklyn, New York.
Wow.
Yes, I had the hat, the
Where
jacket.
in Brooklyn?
In Crown Heights.
Oh, nice.
A lot of people are now crashing into synagogues now in Crown Heights.
Yeah. I lived in Williamsburg for a while amongst the Satmar community.
Right. So they hate each other, the Satmar and the Chabad. And you also have, so Yiddish of Chabad is very different than Yiddish or Satmar. And
you grew up Chabad.
Yeah. But I studied in the last school that taught the kids in Yiddish.
Wow.
So that's like the Rebbe told them.
I'm a Chabadnik, by the way. I don't know if you know this.
You're a Mizrahi Chabadnik.
No, I'm a Chabadnik who opened up a bit Chabad.
Right?
Yeah, actually, before the 7th of October, I was a rabbi pretty much.
Wow.
Being trained by other.
Okay, we'll get into that. But my point is that the Ashkenazic Jews have a lot of different. So, like, for example, the people who aren't religious traditionally hated the religious, the Orthodox, and then they came in the Reform Jews in America, mostly America. I mean, pretty much exclusively America for a long time now. Yep. But the Mizrahi Jews were very fluid.
Yes.
You can say. So, like, for example, in Israel, and I think to this day it's true, you can have people like my wife's family that a lot of them will watch TV on Friday night and then go to the synagogue, come back, do Kiddush, and then after Kiddush, go to the club. And for them, they're just doing what they're doing. There's no like, am I religious? Am I not religious? Am I this? Am I that? Because that's the way life is. I'm Jewish, and some people do more and some people do less. And I do think, and I know that maybe I'm not doing exactly the right thing, but it's fine because that's the way it is. And I'm doing what I can. Yeah. And with where I grew up is like, I'm throwing you out of the house. Like, this is like, so people should understand, I guess, the difference in like, and in the last few years, I would say the last decade, there's a new thing where a lot of people on the Ashkenazi side are saying we should learn from the Sephardic, the Mizrahi side, and try to like be more accommodating and be more accepting of people that may not be 100% the way you want them to be. I think Israel...
I'll actually make a correction with that one thing. By the way, I do find that Chabad and a lot of Ashkenazi circles will be way more accepting a lot of times than Mizrahi, because they
It's
can
not
be like
exactly
Nazis, the Mizrahi, sometimes when it comes to Judaism.
But I disagree because Chabad will be accepting until you become yourself a Chabadnik.
Yeah,
And then if you're a little bit straight, you're not exactly a Chabadnik
correct.
anymore.
Because
So-
then you have those
right,
rules, you know?
Right. But in Mizrahi, there's not those rules. A lot depends where maybe now. And
Yeah, things have changed
Yeah.
for sure. But what I think what you touched on there is the fluidity of it.
Yeah.
Being a Mizrahi is all about being, it's fluid.
Right.
Like that's my whole life has been growing up in hypocrisy between my parents, my grandparents, myself. Like, you know, I won't work on Shabbat. I won't look at anything with money, but I'll eat an unkosher meal on Shabbat.
Yes.
It's like
it's
it-
fine.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But to me, when I had a conversation with myself years ago about what I want with my spirituality, I let go of the idea of organized Judaism as a religion. I let it go completely. I've deleted it from my life. It's just not part of me anymore. And I'm reconnecting with what it means to be part of Bnei Israel, part of the children of Israel. What does that holistically mean for me? What does that spiritually mean for me? What does it practically mean for me? And I'm building the religion from the ground up for me. Because the basic, and for me, it's important for every Jew to learn this, we are fundamentally not a religion. We are not like Christianity, and we are not like Islam, and we never will be.
predate the idea of organized religion in that sense,
Yeah.
because you can see that the Jews, and I don't want to get too theological, but the Jews coming out of Egypt were a people. They weren't.
Correct. They were a
and
nation.
they were like a nation, and only after they formed as a nation did they get the commandments. So first thing, before you even talk about religion and what we need to do and what we don't need to do, is like you're a people. You're part of something bigger than you. You're part of a group. You're part of a tribe, so to speak, but not tribe in the tribal, the way we call it. Like now it's very negative tribalism, but in the good sense, you're part of a family.
Part of a family.
Yeah, so I agree with that 100%. And then the family got spread out, and then every part of the family took different things. So I'm Ashkenazi, you're Mizrahi, but now we're back together a lot. So I got married with a Mizrahi woman, and in Israel, I think a third of the marriages are mixed in terms of Mizrahi and Ashkenazi, and most of Israelis at this point are, I think, not Ashkenazi 100% at least, and I think probably mostly are Mizrahi,
Over
or at least
70%.
part Mizrahi.
Over 70%
Yeah.
make up Mizrahi and Ethiopian.
And if we take out the Haredim, the Ashkenazi Haredim, which still are very, I know it's not politically correct, very racist against Mizrahi, marry into Mizrahim. So if we would take them out, it would be much more. They ideologically, a lot of times, refuse to get married with Mizrahi Jews.
Yeah.
So if we took them out, we would have a much larger, like it would be much, even more.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we got all that out. And now I want to talk about, you had a video. I think this was the first time I saw you, and I'm not sure it was on your channel. Maybe you were with someone else when you went in the streets and was like, you wore the kafia, I think it was, and you're like talking to people on these universities in America. Can you tell us like how do people, they see you're like talking to them, you look like an Arab. You're wearing like sort of an Arab garb. It's like, it's borderline Arab, but it's like, I don't remember, it was exactly the kafia or something. And then you talk with these people and they're like, oh, wait, he's Jewish? Oh my God. He's like, but we were told that all the Jews were white.
Yeah.
And like, so can you talk, were you scared that they would punch you in the face or something?
There's always a fear. I started training like a little MMA now and started dieting because I'm getting so many death threats just to try to take it a little more seriously. But yeah, I was doing that in Washington Square Park in Manhattan.
The worst of the worst.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's a cesspool of just like NYU liberal
Manhattan
graduates.
lives right on the park.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me that they supported 9/11.
Supported.
Yeah, like a girl,
9/11.
like a regular white girl was just like, yeah, I could see how 9/11 was justified. I don't think it made it into the original video, but
How could you? Did you ask her like why? Like what was justified?
yeah, and then I started I was like, so October 7th by that virtue justified as well. She's like, absolutely. So
What was justified about it?
about 9/11?
Yeah,
we
we
oppressed everyone. Where Americans have oppressed everyone. You just look at America's direction. We're obviously oppressing you.
Did the Jews, like Israel, come into the 9/11 thing for her, or was
I'm
it?
sure I didn't get deep into it, but I'm sure if I did, I'm 100%
Right.
positive it would have been the blame of the Jews somehow.
It's very weird, by the way. Also, as someone who knows Arabs a lot, the fact that, and this has always been something that Western people don't understand, I think, about the Arab culture. They're very into conspiracy theories. They're like drowning in conspiracy theories.
You know why? The trick behind it is that they have no self responsibility.
Right, right.
Arabs have an inability for the most part.
Like ISIS was, they weren't Arabs or Muslims because they were doing bad things.
Correct.
Therefore, they can't be.
Correct.
So they have to be like American or a Zionist or
Correct.
something. It's like they can't take, they don't have any agency. Therefore, that if they do something bad, it's the West's fault. The West's fault, meaning, so.
There's a very small focus group of Arabs who have been capable, and that's the Gulf Arabs, the UAE, Bahrain, Saudis, Qatar, even to a certain extent, even though they're diabolical and horrible.
Yes.
But like they have been able to take accountability for their shortcomings in the past and move forward in some ways conniving, not all of them, but in some ways conniving and maniacal. They have been able to step forward into the future. The other Arabs, who I don't even consider real Arabs, they're all fake Arabs. They're all Arabs who have been Arabized. These are people from the Middle East who have been Arabized by force.
You mean like Egypt, Jordan, here, the Palestinians?
All of them besides the Gulf, pretty much. The only real Arabs in the Middle East are the ones in the Gulf. Everybody
Not the
else
Saudis
is
even?
the Gulf. That all the
Saudis
the
are
Gulf
considered
states.
the Gulf?
It's called the Halijis and the Hijazis. That whole area from basically from Saudi Arabia until Qatar. That everything in between is all the real Arabs. The rest are just fake Arabs. They've been colonized. Not even Bedouins. Like a lot of them are just people who have been colonized by the Arabs and forced to wear an Arab identity. But a lot of those people, like without that Arabization, you know, we might be living in a totally different Middle East. It would be a different mosaic of beautiful cultures that could have existed here, potentially in peace.
Right.
I really believe it.
So they're very into conspiracy theories, and therefore I think one of the things is that every single tragedy that is done in the name of Islam or by Arabs is either a Zionist plot, a lie, didn't happen, all this kind of thing. So like one of the things I remember growing up, we said Americans were very into conspiracy theories. Every poll that you see, 10% believe they've been abducted by aliens, and like a significant amount believe the moon landing didn't happen. But this is on steroids here in our region. People I think really don't understand that almost you can't really talk rationally with a lot of people here because they don't believe facts. They believe that the facts are not like they believe that everything is some kind of play. I remember like the craziest example is the sharks in the Sinai. The people saw sharks. It was the Zionist sharks. The hotel, something collapsed. It was the Zionist plot. Like everything is, and so maybe talk a little bit about like when you talk with the people on. So you give them like, okay, this happened on October 7th. This happened on 9/11. And they're like, no. They don't believe anything really happened, right?
But that's why I've stopped trying to give them facts altogether. At this point, like a lot of my strategy is just condemning them. Like I don't believe that we should be better than them. I think it's actually rooted in a lot of racism, this holding us to a different pedestal than them. I'm like, we live in a neighborhood where everybody thinks a certain way. Everybody acts a certain way. Let's start fitting in. Like, let's start acting like them.
Like part of the neighborhood, like Zvichas Kelly says.
I don't want to be a European white colonizer. I don't agree with that. That's not me, too. I grew up in a family of Huga Buga people. I grew up like this. Like, I grew up yelling and eating with my hands and not, like, that's what I grew up in, you know? Like, we weren't sophisticated individuals. Not my family.
So you don't consider yourself Western?
No.
Why?
I grew up in the West, but in anything but a Western house.
But isn't Western an idea? Like, how do you look at, like, so maybe I'll push back a little bit.
Sure.
Please. So one of the things that I'm really annoyed at, and I think a lot of our viewers, just because of, if you find me interesting, then you obviously agree at least somewhat with me, is I think that identity politics, the way they've been weaponized in the West, are horrible for political discourse, for having a healthy society, for, you know, having a cohesive society in the West or in any place, including Israel, by the way, which is one of the reasons why I'm always like, every time someone talks about Ashkenazim, Mizrahim, it gets me tense. Not because I did anything to like be racist to anyone or, you know, but because I just think it's unhealthy. Like you said, look back at whatever happened, the Gulf states, just that as an example, but look forward, right? And I think that maybe don't you run the risk by talking the way you talk, by thinking of the situation the way you do, that you're bringing back a sort of view that will polarize Israelis themselves and even Jews in the diaspora themselves. Like, why can't we just talk about ourselves as Jews? We have our origins here. We're talking, why do we, like, answer that and then I'll push back.
I will say because we can, but only a part of us can. And that's what's messed up.
What do you mean?
Like, a lot of Ashkenazi Jews I see, and this isn't like a criticism of all Ashkenazi Jews, but a lot of, I would say specifically Western Ashkenazi Jews, which make up a big part of our family.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you this example. I was giving a lecture like 6 months ago in Texas. And after I finished speaking for an hour and a half, mind you, about my Iraqi Jewish family, I had somebody ask me, a Jew, are you Arab or Jewish? And I'm like embarrassed to say this has happened more than once, and sometimes with very high profile people who like should have no.
Right.
And so this is where my ideology comes down to it. Why I don't think it could cause internal issues. We have to be fluent in each other's diaspora and in each other's trauma, in each other's genocides, in each other's suffering. The problem is right now the fluency is coming from. Right, let's talk about just the major groups here in Israel. It's Ethiopians, Mizrahis, Ashkenazis. Between us, there's also the Indian Jews, the Kaifeng Jews. There's a bunch of other groups, but the majority,
the larger groups.
Those are the majority three groups: Ethiopian, Mizrahi, Ashkenazi.
Even though I think Indians are almost the same amount of Ethiopians in Israel. There's only like 180,000.
Maybe. So, okay, let's do 4 groups. Let's South Asian Jews as well.
But don't Indians consider themselves Mizrahi, like in the same types of
It's
traditions?
technically, yeah, it's kind of a misnomer because there's also 5 distinct groups of Indian Jews.
Okay.
The Mumbai ones are kind of really connected to Iraqi Jews. A lot of them came from there. The Eastern ones are not at all. They're more connected to Chinese Jews who also technically came from
There's
Iraq.
Chinese Jews?
The Kaifeng Jews, yeah. There's also
Amazing.
Jews in Singapore. I've met a lot of these groups.
You're making me very... Okay, we'll get to... Maybe we'll do a whole episode just on what types of... Like, where there's Jews that you'd be surprised of.
You need to bring in Nas Daly's girlfriend for that, Asia.
I heard
She's
of
been
that.
doing like a big series. But
Okay,
yes,
continue.
those, let's say those 4 distinct groups, right? You have the Ethiopian, Ashkenazi, the Mizrahi, and the Indian. 3 of those groups are fluent in what happened in World War II.
Right.
They're fluent in what happened to the Ashkenazi Jews. I grew up with an Iraqi mother who drilled into my head, who I watched every Holocaust movie as a kid, took me to every Holocaust museum in South Florida, took me to Yad Vashem countless times as a kid. I'm fluent in the Holocaust. I'm fluent in it. But the average Ashkenazi Jew sometimes won't even know that I'm Jewish or recognize me as such. That's a problem. That's a massive problem.
I agree.
And that can happen, by the way, in Israel as well. Or some Ashkenazi Jews in Israel sometimes they'll be like, "Are you even Jewish?"
No, I don't. Yeah, I think.
Oh, of course. It doesn't happen often in Israel because obviously there's more mud'ut here, but it has happened to me here in Israel. I've had Ashkenazi people come up to me and be like, "Are you Jewish?" at certain events and stuff, and just that alone it's a problem. And I think it's not to criticize the entire group, God forbid, because obviously, like, I grew up around tons of Ashkenazi Jews. Some of my closest friends are Ashkenazi Jews. It's just about being fluent in each other's diaspora. It makes us stronger.
No, with that I agree. I'm just saying, like, if we put too much emphasis, maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like if I would come to you and I would say, you need to be like understanding of what it means to be an Ashkenazi Jew. I would never it's just maybe it's because we live in like you said, what's being taught by institutions is that, therefore there's no reason for me to do that.
But don't get it confused as having to understand what it means to be an Ashkenazi Jew. I'm never going to understand what it means to be an Ashkenazi Jew in the way that you'll never understand what it means to be an Iraqi Jew.
You're complaining all day and eating not
little IBS
food.
and stuff.
Yeah, like you're all day like kvetching mother.
I actually, by the way, love Ashkenazi Jewish food. I'm a big fan of
do?
gefilte fish, surprisingly. I grew up around a lot of Chabad, like I said, and I'm working on a cool episode to hype up the Ashkenazi Jewish community soon, and I want to do it in Bnei Brak.
Well,
do like a culinary food adventure, like hyping
thing.
up Ashkenazi food as a
Thursday
Mizrahi, as a place of solidarity, because I've done it with Ethiopian food, I've done it with Mizrahi Jewish food, and I want to show us that we're not divided. We can come together on these things. But again, it's not about understanding me. It's about knowing what my family went through in the way that I know what your family went through. I know what your family went through. But if I ask the average Ashkenazi Jew to tell me about the Farhud, they don't even know what happened. They have no idea. They don't know the numbers of Jews have been thrown. They don't know that they couldn't quote that 1 million Jews were kicked out of the Middle East. 1 million, almost 1 million, 850,000 plus or minus. And that's a tragedy because it makes us stronger, not weaker, to know that stuff. So to me, it's like if we can come together on understanding each other's trauma, understanding what the Ethiopian Jews went through, when I look at their story, I'm so inspired by them. Many of them walked through Sudan, through Egypt.
A lot of them died on the way.
Thousands of them died. And they walked. That's the most Zionistic thing in the world. And then to have somebody, whether it be, by the way, Mizrahi or Ashkenazi, question their Judaism or ask them and tell them, are you Jewish? They died for this. Walking.
Literally.
Like, that to me is insanity.
But let me tell you something interesting that I always say about this in Hebrew. Well, I always have the question of whether in English to say bad things about what's happening in Israel, because you're like, they can use it, but it is what it is. I'll just say that every single group that came to Israel hated the groups that came after it. It's like, was racist against them. So think about it this way. If you had the Aliyah Rishonah, the first people that came to the land, they were working very hard. They were considered, they felt they were like working with their hands. The people after them were like intellectual Ashkenazic Jews that were like, accountants and stuff.
Right.
Everyone hated them. They were like, this is the old Jew, like this. Then the Holocaust, my grandfather and grandmother survived the Holocaust. Maybe I'll do an episode just on that because it's interesting. Anyway, they were called Sabonim by the Ashkenazic that were here, like the Zionists. They're like, you guys went like sheep to the cattle to be slaughtered.
You didn't fight.
You guys were soaps, Sabonim,
Yeah.
because they made the soaps from the bodies in Auschwitz, so they called them soaps. They were like, and by the way, they were all sent to the front lines and died like a second after they survived the Holocaust. My grandfather did Miluim next to Jerusalem. And then the people after the Mizrahim, everyone hated the Mizrahim. The Iraqis hated the Moroccans. The Ashkenazim hated the Iraqis before them. The Moroccans then hated I think it was the Kurdim and whoever else came after them.
The Iraqis hated the Kurds as well. The Kurdish Jews, they
hated
them.
Everyone hated everyone,
other,
right? And then the Russians in the 90s, everyone hated the Russians. There was, I don't want to say the curses they said about the Russians because it's really horrible. And then obviously the Ethiopians, everyone hated the Ethiopians. And now everyone's hating the Ukrainians again. And I don't know who's going to come next, but everyone will hate them too. So my point is...
Can I fix that representation for you?
Okay.
Because when I talk about it, by the way, in English media, I don't represent it in that way that we hated each other. I represent the exact inverse. I see it as a relay race, which I think is the most amazing thing. So a lot of times we count the first settlers here, the first people to come back home, as the Ashkenazi Jews, but that's also kind of a misnomer. There was the Temanim. Like 1790s was the first aliyot properly of Temanim who were fleeing Jew hatred there.
Yeah.
And
everyone hated them, by the way. The Yeshuv Hayashan in Jerusalem hated they were like, these dirty... There's things that people wrote in 200-300 years ago already about like how they smelled and like the sicknesses they brought with them.
Correct.
So it's like...
But if we choose to fixate on those things, then we lose the fact that they actually ended up integrating.
Of course.
And not only did they ended up integrating, they ended up building really powerful communities in all parts of Israel between Tzfat, Yafo, Jerusalem, Tveria, Hebron. These communities were actually thriving for a long time. And by the way, when they came here, what happened to them? The same way what happened to every single community. We realized that the Arabs who were sitting here, or the Muslims that were sitting here, were way more oppressive to us than we could ever be to each other, right? Because even if a Temani came from Yemen, he didn't all of a sudden get rights here by an Arab that lived here. No. He was still a dirty Jew.
Yeah.
So then he ended up coalescing with his Jewish. They ended up breeding. Didn't matter if they were Ashkenazi, Sephardic, or Mizrahi, having kids and building communities together. And that's why you see these amazing pictures from like the late 1800s or the early 1800s, late 1700s of like all these weird dressing Jews from the old city of Jerusalem who like have the peot, but also look like they just came out of the desert. Like it's a weird amalgamation. You could tell that there was cultural crossover even back then.
Yes.
So you have those aliyot. Then you have the Ashkenazis who set up the state in its modern framework, and God bless their soul, we couldn't have done it with them. Doesn't matter how atheist they were. We couldn't have done it without them, the early Zionists. They came here, they set up the state. What did they do? There were problems, there were resistance. It was a relay race. They tapped in the Mizrahim, and the Mizrahim came in. And then after the Mizrahim tapped in, they developed themselves, they built it up. Who was the one who gave the final decree on the Ethiopians being Jewish? It was a Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, an Iraqi rabbi.
By the way, the Chabad people still don't look at them as Jewish, which is
very
sad.
Not all, because I've met some Ethiopian Chabadniks, by the way, which is an incredible thing. But like, and then, so it was an Iraqi rabbi who ended up saying, no, these are Jews, definitively.
Ariel is Iraqi? He was the chief rabbi of Mitzrayim.
He lived in Mitzrayim for a while too, in Egypt, but he was from Baghdad.
Okay.
And his whole family was from Baghdad for generations. So to me, that's the most amazing story in the world. Because by the way, I know as being an Iraqi Jew, how incredibly racist that community can be, specifically towards black people. It can sometimes be horribly racist. To me, I take such passion and honor in that I say, okay, so the Ashkenazis tapped me in. My community tapped in the Ethiopians, and later over time, we've been tapping in more communities. We've been tapping in the Indian Jews. We've been tapping in the Kaifeng Jews. We keep tapping in different Jewish communities. And as opposed to our enemies around us, who when the Palestinians are going through the worst genocide in human history, they put a 7-layer fence and charge them $10,000 in entrance in Egypt. I'm looking at you, you baboons. Sorry. That's what they do to each other, the Arabs that are such a ummah and stand together. We, on the other hand, yes, we are racist towards each other in minor ways, and we like to poke and jab. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, we do save each other. We help each other. And I swear I would do that for every other Jew.
Yeah, and we did an episode here, by the way. In Israel, there's a lot of, I would say a lot of people would be annoyed at you from the Mizrahi community, actually, for what you said. And
everyone's annoyed at me, period.
Yeah, no, but like there is a strain of thought that says like the Ashkenazi were very oppressive to us. And even people from my wife's family, like threw us in the Ma'abarot.
We were in the Ma'abarot,
my wife's family's from Or Yehuda. They were like thrown there into tents for decades until things changed. But on the other hand, you do have a very rising middle class of Mizrahim, a new generation of academics. And by the way, this is very interesting to spoke about the new colleges that opened in the 90s that gave Mizrahim a new leg up that they didn't have in the universities traditionally here. So it's an interesting conversation. I would just say that whatever you say, like even if you totally take the way I said it, it's still better and more cohesive than our neighbors.
Correct.
And so from that, I think, and by the way, more than not only our neighbors, I think more than Europe and America.
More than any Christian group. By the way,
so,
what have Christians in the West done for Christians in the Middle East?
They've
watched them just get completely genocided and disappear in Nigeria. They've watched them disappear in Lebanon, in Syria. They're gone. In Egypt. And Christians in the West, do they do anything? No. They have all the money and the power in the world, and they don't help their Christian brothers and sisters.
We help them, by the way, here.
We try to. We could do a better job, and I think we should, by the way. I really do think we need to help the Christians. Just because they used to be our enemies, I don't think that they don't need to be our enemies anymore, and we can help them out, and they look to us for a lot of guidance. I actually found that out. But I will say there's that story about how we see each other and the racism that we go through. Yes, there were problems. My family was also chucked into Ma'abarot when they came here, and they could have lived in the early developments. There were houses, but they were intense. But let's be honest for a couple of things, okay? I'm a realist when it comes to this. Ashkenazi Jews, they're the ones who have the Nobel Peace Prizes. They're the ones who developed all the technologies. I'm not saying the Mizrahis are not capable of it, but we didn't. We didn't rise to the occasion in that sense. We lived in a different world. We lived in a different universe. Ashkenazi Jews are the ones who are more developed. I, by the way, take pride in being more of a hugabuga. Why? Because what takes precedent with me is culture. It's not necessarily the science and the information. And then I look at the modern state of Israel, and I'm so proud that Mizrahi culture is the predominant culture.
Yes, the music,
the language, the music, the slang, the food. I love when I see Ashkenazi Jews sitting in Alma in Jerusalem in that Kuba restaurant, shoveling down Iraqi beet Kuba, the Kuba Selek. I love it. It makes me go crazy. I'm like, that's what I grew up with. That's my favorite food in the world. So to me, I'm like, I focus to choose that over feeling like I'm some sort of third-class citizen because my grandparents were in Ma'abarot. It's not a great history. I'm not proud of it. I'm not happy about it. But I choose to fix it on the fact that, Mizrahis have made a super big come-up. Like, massive come-up here.
I agree. And I agree that should also, that's the healthy way to look at it.
Yeah.
Like, looking back all the time doesn't help anything. I want to talk about one last question about current events and then Iran, which I know you're very passionate about. So one thing that we just had today, actually, the day we're recording this, is the day that the Rafah crossing for the first time since October 7th opened from both sides, people leaving and people coming in. We also know that...
Wait, today? We're bringing people from Gaza
into Egypt.
Oh,
yeah, they can leave and they can come into Gaza from Egypt, the Rafah crossing. And I think with different security checks or whatever, probably also paying the Egyptians off lots of money. That's as per usual. It's the Egyptian officers in Rafah made millions of dollars.
Horrible people.
In these 2 years. Yeah. They made so much money.
It's the worst.
And all the rich people of Gaza left. Yeah. So just so people, I don't know, people don't really know this. It's like a weird thing. Like... Yeah. Open air prison. They might know it,
they just choose to ignore it.
Open air prison, but for the people, So, and also a lot of these new organization that is supposed to run Gaza already is moving in.
Trump's peace thing.
Yeah, different cars I
Yeah.
saw from like different countries that are with the signals of the countries on the cars. We brought back, thank God, Ran Gviri, the last hostage, body of the last hostage. So basically, but Hamas is still in 48%, 47%, depending on. And I told someone yesterday that people don't understand, and Israelis are very happy. It is very, we got all our hostages back. What other society? It is a lot to be proud of, and I think we don't really have to talk about that because we know. But our enemies still want to kidnap us. They have, I think, incentively, they understand really from this war how much it's worth it to kidnap Jews.
Yeah.
It's like you can literally stop an army from totally obliterating you if you kidnap a Jew. It's like it's so worth it. It's so we incentivize them. We did it for the right reasons for ourselves because we're moral. We want our people and all this, but our enemies aren't moral, and so. How do you, I guess we're not military experts here. I was in Golani, but I know, I was just a piece of meat. It's not like I really did anything in terms of thinking. I was how do you say, like, boreg b'ma'arechet. I was a screw in the door. But in terms of like morally, we know that this incentivizes. I mean, it's simple math. If they know it's worth it, how do you feel about it? Like, how do you think about it in terms of the next war is going to come. The next soldier, the next citizen is going to be kidnapped. And we know this. There's no, like when Gilad Shalit happened, I was saying we shouldn't give him up. You're so mean. You want him to die in Gaza. I'm like, the next people are going to die in Gaza too. So how do you look at it, just in a general sense?
We didn't finish the job.
Of course.
And we have leaders who have, for the most part, failed us in bringing peace. This isn't a specific commentary on Ben Gvir or Smotrich or Bibi Netanyahu, because there's a lot of benefits and a lot of negatives that I can find in all three of those people, in how they process and lead. It's a system overhaul, in my opinion. The only way that this ends is if we overhaul the whole thing. We're in a trajectory that we're on right now. We're living in Disneyland. You and I can both see this country, the writings on the wall. It cannot survive in the way that it's going right now. It doesn't make sense.
Even internally, by the way, with the Haredim and everything.
It cannot survive.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
There needs to be a change. And by the way, the biggest indication is the neighborhood. There is not a single country that looks like us here. That's how you know we can't survive in this neighborhood in the way we're operating. We don't have defensible borders. We keep wiggling around this idea of relinquishing like another 30 kilometers on our east to just close our gap to be 12 kilometers, which we can't hold, while having an active terrorist group on the southwest of us.
You sound like Ben Gvir.
He's an Iraqi Jew, by the way.
Yes.
But I believe in one strong Israel. I believe in a big. I don't know if you know who Yishai Fleischer is, but his whole absolutely, his ideology of a big strong Israel with defensible borders. I'm 100% pro that. I don't believe there should be a Palestinian state. I think it's immoral. I don't believe in a two-state solution. I don't believe that we should be relinquishing any piece of land to any Arab country at all, ever again. If anything, any land that we continue to capture because of their mess-ups, we should keep forever. We should sanction it off. What we've captured from Syria, we should never give it back, in my opinion.
What about from Gaza?
I don't think we should give it back. I don't think we should give it back.
Well, I agree.
I think that any independent Palestinian party that wants to lead now is let's just play devil's advocate real quick. I do this to the people I debate all the time. Give me one moral or ethical justification, even if you have to play their side for a moment, to creating a Palestinian state. And this Palestinian, by the way, this Palestinian state would be the 54th Muslim supremacist state and the 23rd Arab ethno-state in the world and in the Middle East. Give me a moral, ethical justification.
Well, I'm scared to say it because they can clip it out and claim that these are my ideas, and they're not. But I'm going to play the devil's advocate is two things. Number one, from the Israeli perspective, people will tell you, like, demographically, we can't do this over time. They have more kids than us. We want a majority Jewish population.
That's not a valid point.
It's a valid point for Israel to throw these people out.
No, that's not a valid point.
Why?
Look at the Emirates.
That what?
900,000 people living amongst 10 million
Right,
foreigners.
but the point of these people would be that we want a democracy and we don't want to have people that
We'll
are
get to
second
that,
class.
but that's not a valid point.
No, I'm not saying it's my point. I'm just saying
Yeah, I know.
it
okay.
is a point we have to contend with. But the point from the Palestinian side
Yes.
would be, well, we are a nation in the terms we're a people that. It's very weird that I'm saying this. I feel uncomfortable.
I know,
but
right?
this is
Because it's hard to play this part. They have a very hard job.
I can say what they say. They say that we're a people. We're already defined as a sort of like a peoplehood, so to speak. Then obviously people are like, oh, who is your leaders in the past? What is your history? What is your this? Well, it doesn't matter. The point, well, when I studied in my bachelor's, we studied like, what does it mean to be a nation? So there's a lot of things. One of the theories is that once you already feel like a nation, you are a nation. There's a certain thing, there's a certain like like you know what porn is, but you can't explain it because once you see it, you know it.
Yeah.
It's weird that I just compared that to this, but it is. Like there's some things that once you
Both
see
are
it.
immoral. It's
Yeah,
okay.
no. Once you see it, you know it. And they'll say, we feel the same. It's ridiculous, by the way, because they don't. They literally hate each other.
Wait, continue
Okay.
I will say, like, you explained that
Mhm.
in the most Jewish way possible.
No,
You're
I'm
such a Jew about it. And let me explain why.
Yeah.
Because I've never, ever had an Arab ever express that, what you just said. Ever. And I've talked to
Academics
thousands.
would say it.
Not even an Arab academic. I've spoken to some.
So what would they say?
They just say we were there first.
That's because
That's
they're
their
liars.
simple response. But that's what they believe.
Well, then they're
doesn't
like we
matter.
said, they're conspiracists and they don't
They
really
believe that this land is Arab, and they believe that they were here first. And Arab changes a definition. It's fluid to them.
Mhm.
An Arab can be an Iraqi Jew who was forced to be an Arab, but it doesn't matter because we start counting when it's convenient to me. So I say, let's be the same as them. No problem. I'm all about calling this the Democratic Arab Republic of Bnei Israel. No problem. You want to see it that way? Let's do it. Let's bring a Quran verse out. How many times does Bnei Israel appear in the Quran?
Yeah.
43 times. How many times does Palestine appear? 0. It doesn't exist. It's immoral. And when you, by the way, you compare us or the future Palestinian state, God forbid, to the Coptic people, the Mandeans, the Chaldeans, the Arameans, the Maronite Christians, the Kurdish, the Yazidis. When you compare creating a Palestinian state, you're putting a middle finger up to all of those ethnic groups in the Middle East who are dying every day at the hands of these Islamists and Arab supremacists. And you're gonna say, you know what? You guys wait in turn, keep dying at the hands of these people.
What about the Kurds?
And the Kurds, and let's give the Arabs who keep oppressing you another state.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. We'll give you another state. It's immoral. It's wrong.
No, I agree with you. You were asked me to try, but and you're even saying my trying was better than theirs.
You did it in a Jewish way.
No, but
because they don't think like Jews. They don't. When they express it, they just say, "I was here first."
well, I think the reason is that they're not really trying to convince. Like
they're trying to. Say.
Yeah, they don't. I don't think they really care what you think.
Mm-hmm.
They
don't do Hasbara.
No, they don't. Yeah, because they don't need to.
Yeah.
They know that they are right. They know that they have numbers all over the world. And they're like, yeah, we were here first. No, you weren't. Yeah, we were. I don't care what you say. And I don't care what the facts say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much. Okay, we don't have a lot of time left. So I want to talk about Iran.
Sorry. I tend to ramble. I'm sorry about that.
No, it was me, actually. So Iran, you're very passionate. I saw you put a bunch of stuff out. One of the videos was like, you're cursing everyone out, which is good. I love it. Don't start cursing everyone out now. But my point is like, we're recording this on the 1st of February. As of now, President Trump has not done anything that I understand. I mean,
well, there were some explosions yesterday, but we don't know where they're
I
from.
don't think if it was that, then it's really sad. Like if that was the extent of what's happening, they keep on saying that there's actually negotiations behind the scene about the nuclear thing.
Yeah.
To me, that's very weird because what happened, the reason why President Trump is building up this force is not because of the nuclear thing. It's because of them shooting 30,000 at least people in the streets. That has nothing to do with the nuclear issue, but they somehow pivoted to it, I think, to let Trump off the hook. Like he'll be able to say, I'm not going to attack maybe because they agreed to like give up their nuclear program or something, which would be nice, but that's irrelevant to the people who died. Yeah. So the whole framing of the issue by the Americans doesn't make any sense to me, unless they're trying to get off let it off, let the regime off and nicely, and maybe get some concessions on the nuclear stuff. What do you like? Why? How do you see it, and why is this so important to you?
It's really important to me because they've been one of the only people groups who have stood by us since October 7th. They, not perfectly, I'm not saying all Iranians, but so many of them have stood ironclad with us since October 7th, which is, I don't take that for granted at all, especially as a fellow Middle Eastern group. Like, I think it's amazing. There should be more cohesion between other groups in the Middle East who have suffered at the hands of these Islamists. And another reason is I recently discovered that I have a great-grandfather who is from Iran, who's from the northwest of Iran in a place called Urmia, which is like a big lake next to, it's like a little west of Tabriz. And there was an ancient Jewish community that lived there called the Nashtidan Jews, who spoke Aramaic, and they wandered around the Caucasus. And I found out that he was born and raised there. So to me, there's now a personal interest, even though I didn't grow up with any Persian culture. I don't know any Farsi other than Azizam. Like, I feel very, very connected to these people because part of my family story takes place there. I want to go there. I want to see it. I want to help be a part of
and you're a traveler
it. And I'm a traveler.
You would love to go, but
it'd be like a homecoming too, because I've been so loved by so many people in Iran for the last 2 years since I started speaking up. And a part of, by the way, my story that I didn't get a chance to talk about yet is my grandmother, Miriam, who's still alive. You
spoke about her.
Yeah, my only living grandmother. After the Farhud, they lived in Iraq for another like 10 years or so, to the 1950s, with just horrible Jew hatred. Like, it was very, very bad. Like what you would call anti-Semitism. I just don't like using the word.
Anti-Jewishism.
Anti-Jewish hate. Yeah. And in the early 1950s, the Shah of Iran actually organized flights from Baghdad to Tehran. He, kind of saved the Jewish people there. They fed them. They got them renourished, and they flew them to Tel Aviv. People don't know that Tehran and Tel Aviv, Iran and Israel were good friends back in the day.
Until the revolution.
Yeah, until the revolution. They cooperated. They worked together on intel stuff all the time, military operations. So actually, like, Iran and the Shah and the people of Iran have a part in me being alive. I do feel like I owe my life to them, and that's my last surviving grandmother.
Wow.
Like, her story takes place in Tehran. There's pictures in the Babylonian Jewish History Museum in Yehuda, I think. Yeah.
My wife actually did their shirut. She
really?
Got like credits for university. So,
amazing.
So she was there like a few hours a week.
So I was there recently, and I was documenting the pictures that they have pictures of Babylonian Jews, of Iraqi Jews sitting on the tarmac in Tehran, waiting for their flights to Tel Aviv. Yeah. So I have a personal, I have a personal feeling of wanting to be involved, but also we know who these people are. The Persians aren't Arabs. They're not Islamists. They never adopted Arab culture properly. There are some people amongst them that did, but as a group, they didn't. They want liberation. It seems like most of them want democracy, or at least a monarchy that serves the purpose of freedom and liberty. Mm-hmm. And let's remember that biblically, the only non-Jew that has the title of Mashiach in the Torah is King Cyrus the Great. He's the one who brought back the Jewish people to their homeland. Like, there's so many elements that tie us with this group of people. They know it, and we know it. I really believe that there's nothing else we need to know other than that to stand ironclad with these people. Like, that's why I'm so vested in it. And as for what's going to happen, I talk to Iranians now every single day. I've been
in Iran.
Some in Iran. It's been a little harder to reach the last 2 weeks, people inside of Iran. I've been crying every day, man. I cover it on my show. And I get just the worst footage that not a lot of people get to see because it's being sent directly to me, of just the horrific stuff that's going in there. And I'm in tears all day. Like, it's horrible.
These are videos that most of us don't see.
I would say that a lot of people don't see. You have to kind of look for them, but they end up directly in my inbox because I'm just so involved in the matter.
And what are you saying, that they're just being massacred in the streets during the protests?
Yeah, just body bags, people still moving inside of piles of body, just horrible things. Like very dark October 7th style, Holocaust style. Like, if this isn't the genocide, I don't know what is a genocide.
I don't get it also. Like, do you think the reason why, this is something that I heard Douglas Murray actually say, I think yesterday I was watching a video of him, and he said that in Gaza, everything was on footage. And even though people were saying we were obstructing the internet, actually everything was coming out. We saw everything. And one of the reasons why, like on TikTok, you saw people getting killed. War was on TikTok.
Yeah.
in Iran, they managed to literally shut down the internet. It's very rare to, like, I assume that once the internet will come on fully, we'll get a flood of videos
That's
out.
what everyone's saying
But,
now.
but as of now, they've been able to suppress a lot of what was happening. So even if there are 30, even 40, 50,000 dead, we don't see it.
Yeah.
So do you think that's one of the reasons why we don't see the protests? Like the visuals aren't there of the gory images.
It's not just that though. They don't care.
Ah, okay.
They really don't care.
I think isn't it like a mixture of
like
that?
in
Because
Sudan, there's internet. There's videos coming out every day of the genocide going on in Sudan. They don't care.
Nigeria also, you have a lot of these terrorists.
Somalia too.
Christians. Yeah. So
Lebanon, Syria, in Yemen, by the way, there was throughout the last 10 years, there's been footage coming out almost daily of people. Like the Kurds, what's going on with the Kurds right now?
Right.
Who's protesting for the Kurds?
So you're saying everyone cares because we're Jews?
I don't even like to flip it on that. They're just Islamists. They have an ideology. They're pushing a specific ideology, which is Jews bad, the West bad, white people bad. Anything that fits that ideology gets talked about. Anything that doesn't, like Muslims massacring other Muslims in the millions every year,
What
it
about
has
the
to remain
Chinese,
silent.
the Uyghurs? So like they're Muslims. Chinese are Asians.
Yeah,
But no, there's like a million Uyghurs in concentration camps.
yeah.
Being killed, neutered, all these other things.
Yeah.
But no one talks about that.
Yeah, Uyghurs are actually a Turkic group.
Right.
They're not even
Right.
Asian. So it's like for the Arabs, at least of the Muslim world, it's an extra level of we don't care because they don't see them as real Arabs.
Uh-huh.
This always
But they
comes,
are Muslims.
Yeah, but they don't care. This is the thing everyone needs to understand. Arabs and Muslims are the most hateful group of people that exist on planet Earth. They hate every border you cross, east, west, north. They hate each other more than we could ever hate them. Not that I hate them, but more than you could ever have hate for these people, they hate each other first.
Yeah. And all the polls, by the way, show it. Like in Pakistan, 90+% hate Jews. And I assume if we asked about Christians, we should there probably is, but it's like probably 80-something percent, et cetera, et cetera. So, and in India, by the way, also like they hate the Hindus.
Yes.
So like it's they hate everyone who isn't them, but even them, they hate it within each other.
They hate more almost, I would say. Like if you ask the average Muslim in Palestine or in Egypt or in Lebanon, if they like Indians or Indian Muslims, they'll be like, no, I hate Indian Muslims. Because they don't see them as real Muslims. Because it's
very ethnic.
The Islam went there by colonization. It's laughable for them that they could even be considered. But what's really hilarious, to me at least, as a Jew, I look at the Halijis and the Hijazis. These are the Gulf Arabs who know their history. They're the only real Arabs. They're looking at all the other Arabs in the world, the Syrians, the Egyptians, the Palestinians, the Lebanese. They're looking at them and they're saying, go, my subjects, go, fight for me. Because they don't see them as real Arabs.
Right.
They're happy to let them die
They're
in the millions.
expendable.
Yeah, they're all expendable because, and look at the way the Saudis, Emiratis, Bahrainis, they're of status.
Yeah.
They dress nice.
They
Got their
deserve
cars,
life.
their houses. They're not fighting in anyone's war. How many foot soldiers do you see from the Halij or the Hijaz these days? By the way, that's because they're smart. They know who they are. They know their identity. They're not willing to die for it.
But also, they don't look at Islam. They're very fluid on their Islam also. Like they'll drink alcohol behind the scenes, and they'll have, and they're like in Davos. A lot of these people will go to the prostitutes between you and me. No, I'm saying like
cut the cameras.
Also in Israel, by the way, you'll see like they'll eat on the Ramadan, but they'll do it on the side when no one's looking, and it's like like they're not. They'll say like, there's a sort of thing where it's like, well, on the outside, everyone's the perfect Muslim.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, no one's. It's like there's a whole sect of people that don't really care. It's uncomfortable to say it, but I see it with my own eyes here. And I'm not even going to let you to respond because I don't want you to get more fatwas. I want to ask you one last question. We're like out of time.
I got a new one, by the way.
Oh, okay. So don't say anything. That was me. The way you started off was with you were a traveler.
Yeah.
You were going all over the world. Before we spoke on camera, you said 83 countries, I think.
Almost 80 countries.
Almost 80 countries. Yeah. You made the thing that I saw with the boat from on a cargo ship, if I remember correctly, from Italy to America. Mm-hmm. So you were all over the place. This was your life.
Yeah.
Like maybe a decade, no? Something like that.
Yeah, 10 years. 10
years. You're traveling all over. You're taking videos. You're making, I think this was your livelihood.
My job, yeah.
And then October 7th happens. You said in Asia, a few minutes ago you said that. And then now you're here. You're like in Israel. You have a house here, apartment, and your life right now is here. Right? And you changed your whole channel has changed. Not, I don't know if it changed 100%.
100%.
Changed to like you're talking about not the trips, not the traveling. You're talking about life itself.
Yeah.
About your identity, about why you think we're fighting. What? So my question, like it's understandable in the sense that this was a shock, and now but have you suffered financially because of this? Have you, like, what are the sacrifices that someone needs to take if they want to like leave their life? Teach them, I guess, like in a short, like, and it's a long answer, I assume, but like, let's say I was working in something and this shook me, and I now want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And I want to like give my life to this in a certain sense. What were the sacrifices you had to make?
I lost everything. I lost my job. Like I fired myself and then rehired myself. Wow. I lost my income. I lost all my sponsors. I just, I had a home there in Asia. I just finished up setting a Beit Chabad up, and like I was really morally invested in this. I saw I was probably going to get married out there and stay there for the rest of my life and continue to dominate the travel market and like reinvent myself and be the top travel guy. I had like a long list of other countries I wanted to go to, a lot of which I can't go to anymore.
Right.
I lost everything, and I came here. I don't have, as we spoke about Mizrahi Jews, I don't have a rich family, not a single family member who could really support me. I had to do it on my own. I came here and I sunk myself like deep into debt, almost like $60,000 into debt. I just kept on giatzi, the credit card. I kept on saying
Swipe your credit card.
Swiping my credit card deeper,
and you became more Hebrew fluent.
I just kept on swiping and praying, and I had like amazing, incredible followers on my Patreon who were basically paying my rent for a year and a half until things picked up.
Wow.
But for a year and a half, I was homeless for the first 4 months I was here. I had enough money for the first month rent, and then I went into damage mode, like damage saving mode. And I slept on couches, and like I bounced from people's houses for 3-4 months until like June, July 2024, where I was like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of a following now from this stuff. Let's see if we can afford rent. And then had a lot of people do me wrong many times in the sort of Hasbara Jewish space, a lot of false promises, a lot of false promises to support me, which never came through. And it always ended up just being the backbone of my followers who believed in me, who many are probably watching this right now, who are just like my core, and I couldn't have done any of this without them, who believed in my messaging. They agreed with what I was saying. And I also shifted my direction and messaging from a more travel on the ground Hasbara perspective, was trying to show people the truth, to full on attacking the people who are attacking us back. And people agreed with that. They liked it. They enjoyed it. A lot of my videos started going viral. And it was kind of like a idea of trust the process. I'm a very spiritual person, very, very, very connected and tapped in with Hashem. And I don't take that for granted at all. I pray every day, meditate every single day on this stuff. And I have been for years. And I knew somewhere deep down inside, if I stuck the course, things will work out.
And now they're working out. Finally.
Last January, I hit my rock bottom. I moved to Bat Yam because I ran out of money trying to survive in Tel Aviv doing this.
Bat Yam's not so bad. Well, it depends.
It's bad.
Okay, so you moved to...
Not because I'm crazy about Tel Aviv, by the way, because I don't like Tel Aviv very much. I'm not a Tel Aviv guy. Just Bat Yam is not where it's at. I also lived in like North Bat Yam and basically the USSR. I was like, not my neighborhood.
For Mizrahi.
It was like a little bit of a rough neighborhood. And I just like I got to a breaking point where I was like, if this doesn't work out in the next couple months, I'm gonna have to leave. I'm gonna have to pack up shop and figure out something else, because I can't really do this for free and no one's coming to help me. Can I continue to talk a little bit, because the story is very interesting?
Let's see.
Okay.
Until he throws us out.
Okay. I moved into this new apartment, and then I got in touch with this company called Jewish Creator. Mm-hmm. They have a page called Jewish Uncensored.
David, no?
David and Morty. They run the page, and they're amazing people. and they took me on as a client of theirs and have blown up my YouTube channel. I was at 250,000 subscribers.
You're on like
after 10 years.
800,000.
We're nearing 1 million. I mean,
Yeah.
we're probably going to hit the 1 million at some point. And it's been by really hard work from all three of us. We collaborate, we talk, we connect, we play the market of what needs to be done on YouTube every single day, day in, day out. When I leave here, I'm going to record more videos for them so we can keep influencing people. And it's been this incredible synergy. And when I hit that breaking point, I was looking for other ways to make money before I started working with them. And I got invited on this trip to the Caribbean to give a lecture tour. It ended up being a scam. 2 days before I left on this trip to the Caribbean, I had already sublet my apartment for 2 months, and I needed to spend $10,000 in flights to pay to get to all the places I was supposed to speak at. And these people were supposed to support me financially. I spent $10,000 that I didn't have on these flights. And when I went out and did this lecture tour, all of the money came back into me through amazing donations from people because I followed through and did the work that needed to be done. And it was like another proof to me that if you stick the course with these things, and this is the real advice, like if you believe in yourself, if you take a bet on yourself, if you know you're doing the right thing and you stick the course and you actually do it, things do work out in the end. Because I spent $10,000 I did not have to go and deliver a message about Israel. I didn't get any support from not one organization, not one Jewish company. And they knew, by the way, many Jewish orgs could have helped.
Yeah.
And they just said no. They said, we're not going to help you. And it's not like I didn't have a status or numbers. I did have it. They just said, we're not going to help. So I did it on my own. I bet on myself, and things worked out. We made $13,000 back in 2 weeks giving lectures. It wasn't worth financially it was 15 flights. It was insane in 2 weeks. It wasn't worth the money, but it was worth myself believing in myself. And from then on, I'm now at a point where I have the biggest following I've ever done. We're, for the most part, the biggest YouTube channel when it comes to Israel on YouTube right now. That's solely devoted to YouTube. We're pretty much the biggest.
Yeah.
And I'm making the most money I've ever made in my life solely from ad revenue, not just the merchandise that I sell, Patreon. So things have really worked out. And now I have an ability to help other creators, help other Jews, do things, projects that I want to work on. So that's like the big blessing.
Yeah, it's inspiring.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, like, lastly, don't respond because we don't have time and he's going to throw us out.
Sorry.
I would just want to say I speak a lot about my eyesight and the sense that 5-6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago at this point, I started crashing the car into things, and I was working in the Knesset as an advisor to a member of Knesset, and now as a minister in the government, and I was crashing the car. She has real luck that I didn't crash it with her inside because that would be a real story, like whatever. And I was in the hospital for a long time, and finally it's a very rare disease. And when the doctor tells you, like, you're going to go blind, you literally feel very sorry for yourself, but you have a choice to either give up. And there are people that I know because we form WhatsApp groups with blind people or visually impaired people, what's called Tudati Ver, people with visually impaired in Israel, legally blind, half maybe say, like, I gave up. They divorced, they stop working, they drink, they smoke, they're all day, they don't talk with their kids, and maybe half, roughly speaking, are like, I'm not giving in.
Yeah.
I'm making the decision to go full. I'm not going to be a victim. It's one of the things in Western, younger people today are always victims. There's almost like it's like a sport. Who's the biggest victim? The Palestinians are very good at it.
Very good victims.
Yeah, they're amazing at being victims. So I think that's an amazing story in the sense that you had all the reasons to pick up your hands and, like, that's it.
And I almost did.
Yeah, but you didn't.
I didn't.
And like, I didn't either, but it's on a different like path. But my point is, like, people should learn from these types of experiences. Never give up. You can change.
And a lot
course.
of it, by the way, is belief in Hashem.
Of course, belief in a higher
I give
power.
all of it to Hashem. All of it.
Yeah, but if you don't believe in Hashem, you can still think this way.
Correct.
My point is, like, always never give up. You can change course. You can pivot. You can this, but never give up. Never. It's so bad. Just for your own self-esteem, for your own. How can you live with yourself if you give up? You can change things. You can, and so that's my message, I guess, through you. So Tal, Tal Oran,
you so
Traveling
much.
Clatt, true pleasure and honor.
A pleasure.
I would like to do this again, actually, about the types of Jews. I know you said what's his name's girlfriend, but I think like you have an interesting perspective.
Sure.
So
I can fill your studio up with a bunch of different colored Jews too. We can.
we'll do that. Bezrat Hashem. So it was a true pleasure.
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Obviously, he's the biggest YouTube channel, but if anyone is following me and not him, follow him too. So and I think that I learned a lot, and I usually don't. So
Thank you.
Toda rabah.
Appreciate it, bro.